Okay, this training video is about NAD. We're just going to kind of talk about the molecule itself and then also about administration and how to do that. So NAD, nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. NAD is essential to all living cells. Let me make sure I get my right. Here we go. It's essential for cellular metabolism. So it's one of the last steps. It's involved in the first steps as well as the last steps of ATP production via the mitochondria. It exists in both the oxidized and reduced form, which just means that it's involved in a lot of redox reactions. It can be implicated in oxidative stress and things like that, but it shares an electron, shares a hydrogen atom, so it's in both forms. One's going to be the active form, which is the NAD molecule charged, and then one's the inactive form, but those things are recycled and reutilized. So our energy production, our cellular ATP production, which is the energy currency of the body, it's responsible for the life of the cell. We need ATP production for our cells to continue to survive. It is completely dependent on NAD. So when you have low levels of NAD, that's going to lead to mitochondrial dysfunction because that NAD is necessary for that last step in ATP production. So low NAD levels means low mitochondrial output, also known as mitochondrial dysfunction. If you don't have a lot of ATP production, that's linked to a lot of chronic illnesses. So ATP production is necessary for the body to regenerate, for cells to continue to live, and to offset DNA damage. So NAD is involved in hundreds of metabolic processes. It includes, as we spoke about, energy metabolism, as well as DNA repair, gene expression. It's also involved in stress response. So things that lower NAD levels and lead to DNA damage, premature aging or just aging in general, those things are, any drug, alcohol, stress, medication. If you're already in a nutrient deficiency state, that's going to lead to lower NAD levels. Obesity, chronic illness, and natural aging would all decrease NAD stores in the body. Here's just kind of a basic how NAD is produced and how it functions in the body. So NAD can be manufactured by the body, but it needs tryptophan if it's going to do de novo, which just means new pathway. So if the body's making brand new NAD in the body, it's going to need tryptophan, the amino acid tryptophan, to do that. The other way that the body can manufacture NAD in the body is through the salvage pathway, utilizing the three forms of vitamin B3, which is niacinamide, niacin, and nicotinamide riboside. So all of those things the body can use to produce a NAD through the salvage pathway, but to make fresh, brand new, it needs tryptophan. And how NAD has its positive effects on the body is through the creation of sirtuins and PARPS. Both of these are known to protect DNA and are responsible for the longevity of human beings and animals. And then NAD is also involved, as I spoke about previously, in redox reactions, which are essential to energy metabolism, DNA repair, gene expression, and all of those things. So, and the sirtuins are what are responsible for the health benefits the longevity benefits that come from exercise and calorie restrictions. So this just kind of gives you an idea, you know, not that you need to know all this in depth, but sort of what NAD does in the body, how it's produced, and what it activates. So NAD levels decline during the aging process and may be an Achilles heel, causing defects in nuclear mitochondrial functions and resulting in many age-associated pathologies. Restoring NAD by supplementing with it can dramatically ameliorate these age-associated functional defects, counteracting many diseases of aging, including neurodegenerative diseases. So basically what they're saying is that low levels of NAD can be a weakness in the body, and without high levels or adequate levels of NAD, things are just going to get worse. Illnesses are just going to get worse, and it's going to weaken the body to an extent. So NAD levels have been shown to decline with chronic disease, and what this means is that by restoring NAD levels, we are able to reverse some of those chronic disease states. We know that low NAD levels are related to the development of metabolic disorders, specifically diabetes and fatty liver disease. And as we spoke to earlier, less NAD would reduce the number of redox reactions, which would increase DNA damage. So there wouldn't be that NAD there to protect the DNA from reactive oxygen species and or, you know, oxidative stress. So reactive oxygen species are what creates oxidative stress, and then NAD works as an antioxidant to neutralize that oxidative stress and neutralize those reactive oxygen species to protect the DNA. And those redox reactions are crucial as well for the energy metabolism. So not just to protect the DNA, but also that redox reaction is necessary for that ATP generation, that energy metabolism. As there's increases of inflammation in the body, more inflammatory states are going to require more NAD. So, you know, the more inflamed somebody is, unfortunately, the lower their NAD levels are going to be, which is just going to make the body weaker, and it's going to exacerbate an illness. So the more inflamed, the less NAD, the more DNA damage, the more inflammation, chronic, you know, cycle. And that chronic immune activation, meaning chronic inflammation, right? Because inflammation is our immune system. That chronic immune activation and inflammation and those inflammatory cytokines is going to accelerate that process and decrease those NAD levels. NAD, so when we put NAD into the body, it's going to do the opposite of all those things. It's going to protect the DNA. It's going to encourage cellular regeneration. It's going to decrease inflammation and help the body repair. And there's actually been some really great studies that's shown that NAD has improved aortic stiffness. So when there's a weakening in the states of like aortic aneurysm or a precondition leading to that, NAD levels have actually supported regaining integrity of the aortic stiffness and integrity of the aorta. So that's a regenerative capacity of NAD, as well as improving the regenerative capacity for the liver. So in a fatty liver state, NAD has actually shown to improve the fatty liver state. So that's a reversal of chronic disease and a movement towards cellular regeneration. So NAD therapy accelerates cellular regeneration and longevity. And into longevity here, anti-aging. So as we age, our levels naturally decline. And so if we don't have enough NAD, one, we're not going to have enough redox reactions, so that's going to increase our DNA damage, but we're also not going to produce enough ATP. And if we can't produce enough ATP, we're not going to meet our metabolic needs, and that's where the body starts to break down and tear down and stuff happens. So if we can maintain NAD levels in the body's not going to break down as quickly. The more NAD there is, the more Sirtuins there are. And I could be saying that name totally incorrectly, but I'm doing my best there, right? So those Sirtuins are what is the active part of protecting the DNA. So NAD itself is involved in ATP generation in the mitochondria, but how it protects DNA is through the activation of Sirtuins and PARP activity as well. It should be known that people over 100 years old actually have higher levels of these molecules that are activated by NAD. So that would go to tell us that, you know, people living longer than others have more NAD in their system. So that tells us that NAD plays a role in longevity because it's essential to repairing the DNA. So if the DNA isn't getting repaired, that shortens the lifespan. If DNA is continually getting repaired, the cell lives longer. If the cells live longer, the body lives longer. So through those processes, through ATP generation and DNA protection and the antioxidant properties of NAD, that's all of those things contribute to longevity of cells and the longevity of a human body. It's also very beneficial in exercise and endurance. Naturally, athletes and those that practice caloric restriction have increased NAD levels when just the state of obesity in itself decreases NAD levels. So it's going to be really, really difficult for somebody that is overweight or has some fatty liver or high cholesterol, dyslipidemia, those kind of things. Since they already have low NAD levels, it's going to be hard for them to start generating ATP again to give them the energy to continue. So utilizing NAD therapy in somebody who's trying to increase their exercise tolerance and get out there and move could be very, very beneficial. And then once they get going and they become more athletic and have a regular athletic program, their body's going to start producing more NAD again, hypothetically, but we can really help them get there. And, you know, because high NAD levels are associated with more ATP production, supplementing and providing NAD therapy to people is going to improve their fatty liver state, improve their insulin resistance, diabetes, dyslipidemia, whatever it is, it's going to, because the NAD is producing more ATP in the body, more is going to get done, right? So ATP is the cellular currency. It's what every single cell needs to do anything. So more NAD, equals more ATP, which means the cell does what it does naturally, just faster. So cellular regeneration, cellular energy, detoxification, everything that the body needs to do, NAD can help it get there faster. There's been a really good study about the therapeutic effect of NAD on chronic fatigue. I mean, that makes sense. If you're chronically fatigued, you're not generating enough ATP. So if we can get that ATP, mitochondria pumping out that ATP, that's really going to change the energy state that somebody's feeling. And then in the study, we also found that if it's coupled with CoQ10, the results are even better. And we can absolutely give people CoQ10 as an injection. And last time I heard, Empower Pharmacy was the supplier of that. There may be some others as well. And that could absolutely, you could provide that for them with their NAD. And that may even be a good special if you get NAD therapy, you know, get a discounted or free CoQ10 injection your first time or something like that. So those results with those two together really really showed the most improvement. And that's because CoQ10 is also involved in the ATP generation pathway. Now, NAD is really well known for treating addiction, drug abuse. Lately, there's clinics that just provide NAD therapy for drug withdrawal. So I just wanted to add some notes on that. It's actually been used since the 1960s, which I thought was really interesting. And I was unaware of that until, you know, getting a little deeper into the NAD research. It's inherently safe, 2 grams per day. In general, we will probably never get to that amount in the clinic. You know, we're offering 250 to 500. However, if you have somebody that is undergoing, you know, some drug withdrawal, alcohol withdrawal, and, you know, they're not able to get access from, you know, one of these high price clinics that are doing these therapies, we can absolutely provide this therapy to them. And the recommendation for something really significant would be 800 to 1800 milligrams per day, you know, over a 3 to 8 hour period, depending on how it's tolerated, and that treatment go on for a week to 2 weeks. Now, we are certainly not the experts in treating drug abuse and alcohol abuse, and we would never claim to be, just like we would never claim to treat a disease. But, you know, if somebody is in need of this therapy and they can't get access anywhere else, that's why we're here, and we are here to help them. Just make sure and that they know that, you know, that's certainly not that we don't have experience in that, and, you know, you may want them to sign a consent form so that they understand that they are not in a drug therapy clinic, and you're just applying nutrient therapy to help them with their goals. Now, as far as IV administration goes, one thing that's really important, make sure that this nutrient is not heated. It will break down in the heat, so don't let it sit out, you know, in the box from the pharmacy, sit out in the heat. Make sure that it's not heated inside your clinic, because that can change the effects drastically, and it can become inflammatory. So make sure that it's not heated and it's kept at room temperature or below. You also do not want to mix it with other components. Because NAD is charged and it's involved in redox reactions, it's the same reason we don't mix glutathione with things. Because it has the capability to interact with other molecules, which is what we want it to do in the body. If you mix it with other nutrients, it could lessen the effects, and it's gonna, you know, undergo redox reactions in the bag with the other nutrients rather than doing it in the body, and we wanted to do it in the body. So we would not mix this with any other components. And the drip rate is generally tolerated at 3 to 5 drops per minute, and we say 40 max. People feel this. It's a quick jump. It's not subtle. It's like all of a sudden they're fine, and then if you do it a little too fast, it just feels like a lot of pressure in the chest or the gut, and it's a very uncomfortable feeling. It's definitely the most uncomfortable feeling of any of the other nutrients. It's sort of on par with alpha lipoic acid, if anybody has had some experience with that. You know, alpha lipoic acid can drop blood sugar very quickly, and you have some more hypoglycemic reactions to that, which is uncomfortable. The NAD can just feel like a compression in the chest or the gut, and it's pretty uncomfortable. So when starting an NAD infusion, you just want to hang out there and really make sure that drip rate's appropriate for that person, because it can come on quickly for them, and if you're not there to adjust their drip rate, it can be very scary for them. So with the approximate treatment time, you know, 250 milligrams is about 2 hours, 500 milligrams is 4 hours. If for whatever reason you're going above and beyond that, and you've discussed with your medical director, okay, I've got this person, they're in here for drug withdrawal, because that's really the only reason you would need to do higher amounts, or alcohol withdrawal, you know, and your medical director signs off on that, then obviously that would take more time. 1,000 milligrams would take 8 hours, hypothetically. So just to kind of give you a gauge, it's a long infusion, so people do need to be prepared for that. And then here's just some good studies. I definitely recommend looking into some of these. These were just some of the top ones that I pulled that I thought had really good information, but there are several studies out there to help you along the way. As always, I'm here to help with any questions. If you need the formulary for your medical director to review, reach out to Katie or I, and we can get that for you to add to your policies and your formulary. All right.